Now, Cid Kagenou is the main protagonist of the series Eminence in Shadow, and he is, like many other isekai protagonists, an overpowered character with an insane harem. But what really separates him from other MCs in this genre is that he isn't OP for no reason. He's actually a genius-level fighter and tactician, despite his goofiness and absurd personality. The genius of Cid Kagenou begins with his previous life as Minoru Kagenou, a modern-day high school chunibyo with the dreams of one day reaching the status of Eminence in Shadow, or somebody that seemingly is very average and forgettable, but in reality is an all-powerful entity that lurks within the shadows. Think like the love child of Batman and Superman. That's kind of what he wanted to be like. Now, in order to reach that ridiculous status, he trained every day in order to be as knowledgeable about every combat style as he could, mastering every form of martial arts and fencing style he could learn. He would constantly test his abilities against the local biker gangs that inhabited his neighborhood and got so good that he could even contest against a trained military veteran at only 17. But, of course, that wasn't enough for him. He needed to become even stronger, because, as he mentions, he still wasn't strong enough to fight multiple soldiers, or even survive the likes of a nuclear bomb. Yes, that is something that he obsesses over. In fact, he obsessed so much over that he went crazy into a frenzy while training and ended up walking in front of the infamous truck-kun that killed him instantly on impact and ended up sending him to another world. A world where there existed exactly what he needed in order to get stronger. Magic. Now, he was reincarnated as the intimidating and overpowered numbskull that we know him as, Cid Kagenou. Of course, when he was reincarnated, he was still just a baby and needed to grow up in order to actually become strong again, but with all of the knowledge and mastery from his previous life, he was off to an excellent start. And now with magic in the mix, he could supplement his lacking physical strength so that he could still compete against and even easily dispatch of fully grown adult bandits as just a 10-year-old. He even got so strong that he was able to beat a literal fucking dragon at only 12. Now, this is where we get to really see the incredible level of genius that Cid really is, because he was an insane prodigy in his previous life. I mean, he was able to master many forms of combat that take some people decades to reach the same level. That's already a genius level feat, but now he's able to completely master magic, something that his old self couldn't likely even fathom existing. And he did it with such ease that he was able to cure a disease that people in this world don't even understand yet. They still see it as a curse and something that is irreversible. He also now is no longer afraid of nuclear weapons beating him, not just because he could survive one, but because he himself can literally become one. Combining magic to his already impressive arsenal of fencing styles and martial arts, he has now perfected the combat alphabet. Where some people usually have a plan A when entering a fight, and likely also have a plan B or even a plan C, Cid instead can use any plan and decimate his opponent without needing to change course at all. He doesn't rely on instinct alone though, and actually dislikes those that do. He sees combat as a conversation with another, trading blows, dodging, blocking. It's all vocabulary to him, and it's the main reason that he's still able to find enjoyment in combat even while being so incredibly stronger than everyone else. He never gets complacent and lets himself stagnate either. He is constantly coming up with new challenges for himself, which brings me to some of my favorite examples of times when he doesn't do something because he has to, but rather because he wants to. He goes above what is necessary in order to further progress himself and also make himself look more like a badass. For example, while fighting a second child of the cult of Diablos, Viscount Grease, he gets lunged at by Grease Lightning, where he's trying to thrust his sword into Cid, and instead of deflecting the blow and redirecting its path away from his body, I don't know, like a normal person would, Instead, Cid decides to touch tips with his blade, blocking the tip of his sword with the tip of his, and perfectly matching the force of the blow so that neither sword is overwhelming the other. Again, he doesn't do this because he needs to in order to win. He does it just to look cool and intimidate his opponents. Cid also never allows situations to best him, especially when it comes to looking like an average NPC background character, like when he tries to out-NPC some Dark Knight thugs interrogating him by begging for his life in the most pathetic way he knows possible. Now, my next example does come from the light novels, so warning that there are slight spoilers ahead, but anyway, there's a scene where Cid is trying to cheat on a test so that he can perfectly cater his score to be as average as possible. However, the normal top of the class student that he uses to cheat on is not actually there that day, so he has to use another top student to cheat. But her sheet isn't completely visible from where he's sitting, so he would need to move to another side of the class in order to see more of her sheet. But even if he masks his presence, that won't actually hide his physical body, so he needs to move quicker so that people can't actually see him. However, if he moves too quickly, he might end up creating a wind draft that can push the paper out of the way so that he won't even actually be able to see it. So he's in a bit of a pickle here, where he needs to find the perfect balance of both stealth and speed, something he hasn't needed to do up to that point in the story, but he refuses to give up there. Now, for reasons I won't disclose here since I don't really want to spoil any major parts of the story, the class does end up getting distracted, and he's actually able to get away with just sneaking around and not necessarily needing to perfectly execute his plan. However, it's this mindset of doing things in a much more difficult and particular way that I think helps Cid become as powerful as he is. He's mastered swordplay so well that he knows exactly what is a necessary motion and what isn't, so that he can both be incredibly efficient and also perfectly act the role of an NPC background character. He specializes so heavily in martial arts, something that most people in this new world completely neglect, that he's not only able to overwhelm his opponents physically, but to do it in the most devastating way possible. His magic expertise is likely greater than anybody else in the entire series, where he can so perfectly control his magic that he not only could survive a nuclear explosion, but that he himself can become one. He has perfected every aspect of combat to the point where he has nearly no equal in any field, and he did all of this on his own without help of anyone else to guide him. He simply invested the thought and effort into accomplishing all of this for his goal of becoming the Eminence in Shadow. On top of all of his combat stuff, he also is an incredible musician, playing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata at a professional level. I mean, he was impressing countless art critics with his performance. He was able to train the Seven Shadows so perfectly that each of them are stronger than nearly every single Dark Knight in every single country. He has even accomplished things that even he's unaware of, like, for example, being the reason that the Mitsugoshi Company is as popular as it is, and also being the actual owner of said business. But now I'm starting to get into things that don't necessarily involve his own personal genius. But anyway, I think I've glazed Shadow-sama enough for one video, so I'm gonna end it here, but I want to know if you all consider Cid to be as much of a genius as I do, or do you think his obliviousness kind of gets in the way of that? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Peace.